Welcome to the Inspiration Incubator. Here we rejuvenate, reconnect, reteach, and redirect. I am your host, Leona Baker. It is our hope that you leave inspired with resources and information to help you achieve and dream. Our world needs you. Let's see who is next on the Inspiration Incubator. An independent insurance agency with a primary focus of securing your family's future. If you were to suddenly pass away, our products of term and whole life covers funeral expenses, lost income, unpaid debts, and more. We represent more than 40 insurance companies in the industry, which gives our company the ability to offer a unique selection of policies and price points. Contact April, Kim, Leona, or another member of our team at www.firstlivinglegacy.com. All right, it's time for sponsors in the spotlight. Today's sponsors are Custom Cover Arts. Now, I want you to go to customcoverarts.com, take a look at their gold, platinum, and diamond packages. One of our lucky listeners, they're going to be able to choose which package is right for them and receive a nice discount. Stay tuned to see how you can enter to win. And remember, support our sponsor, Custom Cover Arts. Dr. Michelle Fennick began her career as an educator over 25 years ago as a teaching assistant and later became a teacher after earning her Bachelor's of Science at the University of Houston. She was a non-traditional student and graduated cum laude. She received her Master's degree of Education and PhD in Educational Administration from Prairie View A&M. Dr. Fennick was also congratulated on receiving her PhD by the House of Representatives of the Texas Legislature. Michelle has worked at both the elementary and secondary level as a teacher. She has been an athletic coach, district trainer, assistant principal, campus principal, and was named first year principal of the year and central office administrator for the nation's 7th largest school district. Dr. Fennick was selected as a master teacher in Chicago Public Schools for a cohort of new principals. She has authored and co-authored a long list of educational articles and has received numerous awards. Presently, she serves as Education Preparation Program Director at Houston Baptist University. She has worked as a consultant and serves as CEO of We Wear Crowns by Michelle. Additionally, she shares her expertise with others by teaching workshops, public speaking events, and serving on a range of educational committees and boards. Dr. Fennick is also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Alpha Kappa Omega Chapter, and the Links Incorporated Texas Spring Cypress Chapter. She is happily married to Luther Fennick Jr., and they co-founded the Fennick Foundation. Dr. Fennick is extremely proud of her dynamic and beautiful daughter, Tarina, a Texas State University graduate. She and her daughter, Tarina Cloud, hosted radio talk show Candid Conversations on MJWJ. The Fennicks have an adorable teacup chihuahua, Ozzy, that is certainly a member of the family. Most recently, Dr. Fennick wrote and published 2 books. As an indie writer, that she shared her testimony of her love for Christ and his redemptive power. Deja's Diverse Training Services. Our business customers are small business owners and startups. Our Scholastic customers are families and individuals who need additional scholastic or career assistance. Contact Deja today at 410-800-4665. Well, hello, Michelle. How are you today?
I am wonderful, Leona. Thank you so much for having me on your incredible program.
Thank you for making time out of your day, Dr. Michelle. And I need everybody to know that you have a PhD in education and that your journey is just one that is just amazing because it's so inspiring from which you have come. You have come through the educational system to inspire everyone within your arm's reach. And so today, people will have an opportunity to see what that journey looks like through your eyes. So thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Michelle. As an educator, and you've had over 25 years of experience, can you take us back to that moment when you realized, I want to transition into the educational system? I believe that there's something there for me.
Yes, so about 27 years ago, I found myself a single mom, and really, I didn't know what to do with my life. I was single, and I needed to move back home. I didn't have a car and didn't have any direction. I was moving back home with my mother, and my daughter and I were going to be sharing my room. My mother and I had a long talk, and some hard decisions had to be made. I knew I had enough hours to substitute teach. And she said, Michelle, you are good at this. You're good at working with children. So I went and did some substitute teaching. While I was substitute teaching, there was a campus near her home within a distance of a walk. I could walk to the campus. Just by chance, the principal, I caught his eye and he said, you're here every day. Why don't you just come to this campus and work here every day as a teaching assistant? And you can have a place that you can come to every day and you can get benefits and you can have a steady place of employment, and you can have just a standard place. So I began to work at this place, and Leona, it was just the biggest blessing. It's amazing how
Mm.
God will use people to just bless you, because Leona, I was at this school and it just began to unfold because I was with these two teachers. They were these two young teachers, Miss Panay and Miss Stein, two first grade ESL teachers. And what was so interesting is
Mm.
that I was the teaching assistant who was supposed to be working with small groups. And it, what ended up happening is I would end up teaching the large group and they would end up working with the small group. Now, when you're a teaching assistant, you have all kinds of duties because you are a teaching assistant. So you work, you have,
Yes.
so I ended up working in the library with Beverly Blanson, who ended up being over all library services. So, she worked at a level of excellence that was incredible. So I had a chance to observe her. When I got to work, I had duty because I was a teaching assistant. So I worked in the clinic. So I had that experience. I worked in the cafeteria because I was a teaching assistant. So I worked with all of the students. I had bus duty, so I worked with all of the students. So I had that experience. And that gave me experience with all of the administrators. Well, as people began to observe me, and that's another thing that I
Mm.
learned from that experience, you just never know who's watching you. People began to just speak to me and say, you need to go to school. Now,
Come on now.
so, here I am. I'm thinking, I don't even know how I got this job, first of all, because I ended up, divorced. I was a young single woman. Um, didn't have a car, got a job within walking distance from my mama's house, that I could go to every day, get some insurance. And so now I don't know how I'm going to go to school. By the grace of God, I've researched and found a Head Start program, and I was on my way to school. So,
Come
um,
on.
yes, and so we got my daughter into the Head Start program, and I was able to go back to school, finish up my degree by going back to substitute teaching, which is what I was doing before, so I could sub Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I could sub and I could go to school all day on Tuesday, Thursday, and finish. Now, what that did for me, because I was subbing and I developed relationships with all of these principals, is I was able to skip student teaching. So I was able to cultivate relationships with principals, and I knew the importance of that because of my experience with this first initial school. Now, I want to also share, I'm from a family of educators, and so I had always been observing these incredible educators in my family. So I
Mm-hmm.
always knew the importance of the craft of education and how to execute as an educator. So that had been poured into me, those deposits had been made. Also, the importance of children and the importance of making sure that they receive the pedagogy at the level that they deserved, and I'm also
Yes.
my faith walk, as far as what the Bible tells us regarding children and what they deserve. So I always really worked hard to walk in that way. So throughout my career, God just really blessed it and never stopped having his hand on my career as an educator. So that was something that I saw him do throughout the career. And once I finished my education, I worked in elementary schools, I worked in middle schools, I had an opportunity to coach track, soccer, and basketball. I've worked as an assistant principal at the elementary levels, secondary levels. I've been a principal. I've been a principal. I've been a coach of principals. I've done a lot of consulting, and now I teach at the college, and I'm also working as an administrator at the college level. I've done a lot of mentoring, and I've been mentored, and I really believe
Mm.
in mentoring, and that's something that's very close to my heart. So my journey as an educator is one that's very, very dear to me. It's one that I really hold near and dear to my heart. It's one that I am so grateful for, and that I
Yes.
just feel so humbled to have had the opportunity to have had that experience with.
Wow. When I tell you, Michelle, first of all, let's go back. I'm going to touch bases on a few things that you said because there are some women out here and also some men who may be in a situation similar to your own. Now, I know all about single parenting because I've never been married. And of course, that's been by choice to a degree. I have been asked to be married, but that person wasn't necessarily the right person. Um, and so I say all of that to say it can be difficult trying to manage your life being a single individual, but when you have a child, it's a game changer. The moment you have a child and you bring a child into this world, it's no longer just about your needs, your wants, and your desires because you are cultivating the life of a human being. So kudos to you for doing the work that needed to be done to ensure that your child, your beautiful daughter, would have some stability. And there were some action words that you put into to practice as you were traveling throughout your journey. You pulled out consistency. You were consistent with showing up at that school every day to the point where the principal noticed something different about you. You were Dr. Michelle before you had the paper and the documents to say, I am Dr. Michelle, because your work ethic was consistent. The principal, who was the leader in that environment within that institution, said, it's something different about her. So I want to encourage my audience today, use Michelle's example of consistency. Consistency. That will break a rock, a drip of water, just being consistent on the same rock. That rock is going to crack. Be consistent. And then you also talked about, Dr. Michelle, you said observation. Observation is key. We should all be observing our environment. We should be observing the people, places, and practices that are consistent with where we want to be. The roadmap has been paved to a degree by people who have come before us. And then when you put prayer into practice with all of that, there is nothing that you cannot accomplish. You said you were observed, and you also observed. You made sure that you were doing the right things the right way, being efficient and effective. So I commend you for that. You also talked about mentoring and how mentorship is essential. And I will tell you as best as I can at my age, in my 40s, okay? I have mentors. It's important. Nobody's going to do the work for me, but sometimes that mentor even comes in the form of my son, who is highly intelligent and just so multifaceted. This child can, just come up with things and research information at a drop of a hat. Just one of the most intelligent young men that I know. And I'm not just saying that because that's my child. I'm just encouraging people who are parents to also learn from your children, because they have something to offer essentially when they become adults. Because if you pour it into them, trust and believe, there will come a time where they can pour into you. And you also spoke a little bit about your future preparation and how all of those components led up to you being Dr. Michelle and working at, currently working in the position that you have, which is as a program director at Houston Baptist University. That is very commendable, to say the least. A very distinguished institution here in Houston, Texas, and beyond. Yes, it is. And so, as you were going through your journey, Dr. Michelle, as a single mother, what are some words of encouragement? Because one of the things that you do, and we'll talk about, We Wear Crowns by Dr. Michelle, when you post information, and you're inspiring women, just here in Texas and all over the world, what are some of the affirmations that you speak into their life to help them see that they can get through, whether they're a single parent, whether they're a mother with children who feel single? Because there are some women, their husbands travel a lot, essentially, if they're athletes, professional athletes. And so you have, women who are wives, and they may have assistance from their husbands, but they're just trying to manage as best as they can. So what are some words of affirmations that you share, and some advice that you've helped to give people along the way?
Wow, Leona, when I started watching what your organization did, I was so blown away and so inspired because I saw the impact that you were having in the community and in the community at large. And just hearing you now and just hearing your story is so incredible because we as women are so powerful. And when I started the We
Amen.
Wear, yes, ma'am. When I started the We Wear Crowns, I had to come back. I had to come back to who I know myself to be as not just a woman, but who I am as a child of God. And so
Mm,
I had to come back to who I am as at the core. because what can happen is we can begin to strive for titles and strive for an
Mm,
aesthetic and strive
mm,
for accomplishments when we at our core, that's those are those things that are those lasting things. And so
mm,
when I one day I started a spiritual journey, Leona. I really did. In 2017, I lost my mother, and
mm. So sorry to hear that.
yes, I lost my mother in 2015, actually, and I was really lost. I was really lost, and
Mm-hmm.
I was, I was on this journey of accomplishment,
Mm.
and God, He was blessing everything I was laying my hands to, because you can accomplish things if you put enough effort into a task, into
Come
a
on now.
goal.
Yes.
If you decide I want to be a size 2, if you put in enough effort and you make a smart goal and you put enough work and discipline into that goal can be achieved. If you put enough
Yes.
effort into a credit score, that credit score can be achieved. If you put enough
Yes.
effort into having a certain savings amount into a savings in a bank account, that
Mm.
savings can be achieved. And so I needed to get to a place of something that was bigger than that. So I had to
Mm.
go
Mm.
back to something larger. And what I discovered on my spiritual journey is I needed something bigger. So I needed an
Mm.
experience with my father. And what I
All
got
right.
to was those things that last. And those things that
Yes.
last are my relationship with my father. Who
Mm.
am I? I'm a child of a king. I am wonderfully made. I am perfectly made. The hairs on my head are numbered. I'm perfect. I'm forgiven. That the sun sets on me, and just like a good person and a bad person, I needed to get back to that. And so that's
Mm.
why I came up with that, um and to understand that as much as I want to have impact and be good to others, I need
Yes.
to be good to Michelle first, and understand
Yes.
my local. When I work with people and I'm mentoring people, a lot of times the biggest part of their angst is other folks. They
Mm.
have all this sadness and baggage because of other people, and when really, who can we control is ourselves. And so
Amen to that.
I the We Wear Crowns is about you. It's about me. And so the We Wear Crowns, I was talking to myself. I was posting for me and inviting
Right.
others to do the same. And so it's really a platform for whomever to share what builds you up. What builds you up? What builds you up
Mm.
and provides that foundation for you to take on the world? What builds you up so that you can make a difference? What builds you up and gives you the foundation so you can feel fortified, so you can feel strong, so you can feel like you can um, take on those, so you can feel armored up. What builds you
Yes.
up so you can take off your armor and you can feel like you don't need, the makeup and the hair and the
Come on,
clothes
somebody.
and the
Yes.
designers. So that was what We Wear Crowns was about. And it's different for
Mm.
different people. And so, I protect it. I look at the post, I pray over it, because I really want it to be a place where people feel nourished, and because I want it to be uplifting. So that's what that was
And it
about.
is.
Yes, yes.
It really is. And I'm so grateful for the invitation because the affirmations and just your spirit, Michelle. I mean, just such a beautiful woman, encouraging and inspiring others. And didn't necessarily ask you what made you want to, take the crown as a part of your logo. And for those that may or may not know, when you were speaking about your walk and your spiritual walk, and you wanted something deeper and you wanted something more, the Bible, God's word, I should say, speaks to crowns, and it talks about specifically the crown of life, the incorruptible crown, the crown of righteousness, the crown of glory, and the crown of rejoicing, so forth and so on. I remember when my mother was sick, and I just, without thought, that's my mother. That's the woman that brought me into this world, who was with me when I took my first breath. And so when I knew that I needed to bring her with me, and she was hesitant about it, and once she decided to come, and, I took her to see her mother, and we just traveled a little bit. And, I just did what I could, because she kept her physical situation away from me. But God, he let me know that it was time to go home and visit my mother. And so when I did, and I brought her back with me, and she said, Leona, God's going to have a huge jewel in your crown because I'm so happy. She was just so happy to be with me. I let her taste what she wanted to taste because she could no longer swallow as a result at some point because of the lung cancer that she had. I mean, it was just such a beautiful moment that I was given to spend those last moments with my mother. And I'm so grateful that God allowed me to do that. And it helped me to put things into perspective even more. When I was younger, and it's so funny, I just interviewed Eli and Lou. They interviewed last year. And so when they were sharing their information and their story about their grandfather and how they weren't like other children, because when they had to come home, they had to walk into a living room that literally had a bed into it. And see, when things like that happen,
Mhm.
it helps to humble us. It keeps us sensitive to the things in life that really matter, because there's so many people who are not getting to where they need to be because they don't have a level of sensitivity with them that they need to have. But for those of us who are exposed to, situations in life that helps you to keep your eyes open and your spirit open to, just feeling and taking in what others feel, to notice someone could walk and now they can no longer walk. Someone used to be able to feed themselves and now they can no longer feed themselves. It humbles you. How could I not take care of my grandfather and wipe his tears when he could no longer wipe his face, or change his pamper when he used to be able to wash his own clothes? You do what you have to for the people that you love, but it humbles you when you see people in need. And so when you spoke to the crown in that perspective as to why you chose that as to be a part of your organization and your logo, that was heavy, because your eyes are fixated on empowering others and lifting them up to help get them out of these dark places in which they are. So that is very commendable. And I will be there to continue supporting your work and all that you do. Now, for some of the ladies out here who are still single and they're, helpless romantics, and they're looking forward to, one day getting married, can you tell us a little bit, how did you know your husband was the one? Because at one point you were a single mom, and then one day that just all changed. And here it is, he was blessed above and beyond as well, because look at what you have done with your life. I mean, just amazing. All the things that you've done. You've been acknowledged by our politicians, for acquiring your PhD, for your lovely program. I mean, what was that like when you finally decided to say, you know what, I think this one is the one. I'm gonna spend the rest of my life with this man.
So Luther and I are just best friends. We have so much fun together, and we pray together, and we just have so many of the same interests. And so that's how I knew. He was so good to my mother, and my daughter enjoyed him. And when they gave him
Mhm.
the approval, then I felt like this is the one. And that truly, truly is the reason that I'm Mrs. Fennick today. Um, I, just like you, I was single, um, and I was very comfortable being single. But I knew, when my family and I were able to all embrace and enjoy that we could go forward, and this was one. And we just have so much fun together. So that was how I made that decision. But I made it prayerfully. And it
Yes.
and it's like people say, it does take work. I do think it does take time to mesh. I don't think things happen, overnight. So
Right, right.
I do want to state that, because I do want to be
Hmm.
real and authentic.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Mhm.
I think that like with my grandparents, they were married 50 plus, about 50 years, or maybe 50 going on 51. And then my parents were married over 30 plus years, although they were separated at the time. So trust and believe, all of my aunts, the elders were. And so when I hear young people, express that that's their desire, I try to tell them to pace themselves, because you don't know what God has for your life. And you may or may not meet someone when you're in college. You may or may not meet someone, after college. You don't know what your situation is going to be. And then you have to, just because someone asks, is this the person that you're supposed to build a life with? Because you are going to build. You're supposed to be building for God's kingdom first. And then, of course, for the things that you and your mate desire. And so it's definitely a process. I look forward to it one day with the right person. Until then, I will continue to enjoy my life and myself.
Absolutely.
Because it seemed like it could be heaven on earth with the right person, but hell on earth with the wrong one. So
Absolutely.
I'm good. I'm good for right now until he show up and let me know that it's all about us.
Absolutely.
Now, thank you. Tell us about some of these books that you have written. You are a published author. Can you tell us about some of your books?
So I wrote my books, Her Story, Turning Pain into Purpose, and What You Sow in Tears, and my gratitude journal, and all very cathartic. One, the Her Story, Turning Pain into Purpose, was immediately following my mother's passing. I was dealing with a lot of trauma that I suppressed for years and years and years. And
Mm-hmm.
and really, all throughout my journey of accomplishment, there was an undercurrent of kind of some double living, Leona, and a lot of secrets of,
Hey,
yeah,
And,
and
and, and thank you for saying that, because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know why people think because you love God that anybody is perfect. We are all
yeah,
walking on a wall. And
yeah,
one of the things that and not to disrupt people, one of the things that we have got to stop doing as people is throwing people away as if they were garbage, as if they were trash, because none of us are disposable. You
yes,
know, we are all made in the image of God. And so if you haven't made any mistakes in this world, keep living,
yes,
because sooner or later it's bound to happen. Whether you think it's more or less ethical than what someone else did, God is not tracking sins in that manner.
yes.
So we all fall short. And thank you, because whatever you're about to tell us, trust me, someone needs to hear it to feel empowered and to be inspired.
And it's cost me a lot. And it's so interesting because I share, and I share without sharing anyone's name, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
I knew not to share anyone's name. But it's so interesting because the people have filled in the blanks, and it's
Right.
so amazing because the blanks have been filled in and it's not accurate. But I share
Right.
because I wanted to just for myself, I just wanted to just get it out. um, there was just so much trauma that I experienced growing up because of different
Yeah.
abuses and things like that. And then the way that I acted out was so wrong, but I didn't know what to do with that. So it's just a lot of sin
Right.
on top of sin on top of sin on top of sin on top of trauma on top of wrong on top of wrong. And so, like, right before I met my husband, my walk was so beautiful with the Lord.
Mm,
I literally had taken it. My walk with God was so strong, and I was just in such a state of bliss because I had come to terms with all of that sin. And
mm,
and then I met my husband, and and it's just so amazing.
mm,
And then it was the what you sow in tears because I was just this emotional when I wreck because work was all I could do. It was my outlet. And when I look back on it, it was quite unhealthy. I was always accomplishing, but it was really skewed. So when I look back at it, it was at a cost. My some of my
mm.
accomplishing, and it was not the healthiest. And so if I could go back and do it again, I think I would try. I don't question God, Yeah.
It sounds like you're trying to say you probably would have had more of a balance. And I'm gonna tell
Yes.
you right
Yes.
now, Dr. Michelle, I can relate to what you're saying. But you know, when I realized enough is enough, when I went to God in prayer and I had to just make some changes and some adjustments, the cell phone to be off, people need to understand I don't always get their Facebook messages, or I don't
Yes.
always receive notifications because I have to
Yes.
have time for me. I have to have time for my child. Now, my sons are grown and gone. So pretty much it's just myself and my baby. So she's 9 and I'm a single parent. I
Yes.
have to teach her as much as possible about herself and the world we live in. I have to have balance. And that's one of the reasons why the podcast didn't start in January. We started
Yes.
in February. When I need
Yes.
to adjust because of my child, I'm going to adjust. And that's just the way that's going to be. So I can relate to you with that. That's real because we as
Yes.
women, I know for myself, there are a lot of things that I accomplished, and I've had people say, "How did you do this?" or "How did you get that job?" And it was nothing but God's grace. And to continue my education, I had to balance that out, doing that with 2 sons. You know, making
Yes.
sure that they were in piano lessons, and
That's right.
my both of my sons can play piano. Both of my sons, Calvin was playing the saxophone. Both of my sons had been around the world before I had been.
That's
You
right.
know, things
Yes.
like that you sacrifice, and you know, you have to allow yourself room for God to work. But see, now that you walk that road, Michelle, you can teach the women coming behind you what they can do a little differently to lighten their load.
That's right.
And for you to say, you know what, that was unhealthy, that is commendable because
Yes.
now I see you teaching us about self care.
Yes.
Okay. You teach us
Yes.
all about self care in your Facebook group, and you teach us to focus on ourselves. And I appreciate you for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So I'm grateful that you are sharing that. That is commendable that you would share that and be open and honest so that other people who are not practicing self-care. I mean, my baby and I, we're going to both, soak our feet and do our toes and do what
That's
we need to
right.
do. Okay.
Yes.
I used to go to the gym. I had 2 gym memberships. I was at Lifetime, and then I have a gym down the street from me because I didn't want to make it. Well, you know what? Now I had to have a gym at the house. It is what it
Yes.
is,
Yes.
because I don't want to be at nobody's gym, but that's my self care. There are things that we have to do for ourselves. We have to
Yes.
love ourselves. If you
Have
don't love yourself, you cannot love anyone else.
ever, ever, ever.
I'm just excited for you. So, what's next on your list for Dr. Michelle? What What are some things that you're aspiring to, and how can our audience reach out to you to be a participant in your Facebook group, your organization, anything that you think that they would benefit from. How do they contact you, and what are some things they can get involved in?
So what I want to do next is to really build upon the We Wear Crowns. I'm really, really wanting to do more with that. I'm wanting to elevate the ladies to have more collective empowerment with the We Wear
Mm,
Crowns. I'm working to put together some brunches and
okay.
do some more empowerment around that piece. I'm putting together some a website that will offer some clothing and some more merchandising around the We Wear Crowns, because I really want ladies to understand who they are as a queen, as a person.
Mhm.
I want women to edify themselves and just understand their locus of control. And it's just like we've been talking about, people are waiting on their Boaz, they're recognizing work life balance. They are understanding that it's important to accomplish all of these incredible goals. But if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't understand the crowns that we wear, it's
Mm.
not going to happen. And so I just really want us to embrace who we are first and foremost. And I just really want us to get back to basics of celebrating who we are and just really understand that, just almost like a love affair with yourselves. I just remember before I got married, I was in an actual love affair with Michelle. And
I know
that
that's right, because I'm in a love affair with
Leon,
myself, girl.
I know,
I
I
know.
heard it. And whenever I forget, I have to go back to that. And it's just amazing how when I do, it helps the people around me to remember how to treat me. And at work, with your children, with the people around you, when you remember, you know to take care of yourself, they know to treat you better. And so I just
Yes.
want to get back to that. And so I want to continue to, I know we're in the pandemic right now, we're social distancing, but I want to do some more things virtually. I want to do some so I'm really trying to spread that out. It's in its infancy stage, but I'm working on my website to really spread awareness around the We Wear Crowns.
Okay. Well, keep me posted
Will
because
do.
I'll be sending people your way.
Thank
I
you.
know it's going to be a great time because you're already inspiring the people who are connected to you. That's why I invited you to the podcast, because
Thank you.
you are inspiring, and we are grateful for the gifts and the talents that you have taken to help empower others as you continue to walk your truth. And I wish you and your family well. You have a beautiful daughter with her chihuahua.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, and just continue to let your light shine.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and we will be in touch.
Alrighty. God bless you. Thank you so much.